This one is pretty self-explanatory. If we had to pick items that are worth every piece of our hard-earned gold, wards would definitely lie in our top 3. Simply put, the more you see, the more you know, and the more you know, the better your decision making. Learn when and how to be offensive with your warding and when to be defensive. Use your wards judiciously as they are limited in number, and try and set the vision according to the game. Does your mid need farm and level priority? Help him avoid getting ganked. Does the enemy have a turtling lineup? Get some aggressive vision and catch their cores off guard. Learn common warding spots and try for quick and easy D wards. You can even use wards to bait the enemy team, but we suggest you do that only when playing in a 5-man stack. Smoke of Deceit is one of the most underrated items in Dota. While everyone has seen the impact that a good smoke can have in pro games, very few know how and when to use it correctly. Most people use it after a period of inactivity in the game to force a team fight, but it is so much more than that. Here are some other ways to use the Smoke of Deceit. Use it to plant aggressive wards. Pop a smoke and sit behind one of your cores when they are farming aggressively. Use it when defending high ground to hide your key heroes so that they can't be initiated upon. Use it to sneak a Roshan when the enemy least expects it, but make sure your lanes are pushed out before you do so. The scan feature is still a relatively new feature in Dota 2, and while it hasn't been explored completely, it's a handy tool to have. It's a pseudo skill shot that can be very informative if used correctly. Carrying only dust of appearance but no sentry wards? Pop the scan near yourself, and if it turns red, you know what to do. Obvious bait by the enemy carry? Confirm by using the scan feature behind the visible core. Want to get a pick off but not sure where the enemy is? Scan. Isolate entire sections of the map by using a correctly placed scan. Chasing a Tinker or a Nature's Prophet? A scan is your best friend. Many people seem to forget the importance of the in-game timer. It has quite a few uses, and being able to interpret the clock correctly will elevate your game to the next level. To save the time for reference, alt-click the clock or bind it to your chat wheel. A seemingly obvious use is to be able to judge night and daytime, which often dictate the pace of the game. For example, night occurs every 4 minutes, and if you can be prepared with some deep wards and a Smoke of Deceit before the nighttime hits, you can actually leverage the reduced vision to execute ganks on key targets. Another important usage of the clock is to mark out timings for when ultimates are used, so that you can track the cooldowns. Of course, this is a pretty advanced move that requires you to have in-depth knowledge of all the heroes, but can be a pretty useful feature when going up against combo based lineups. While this is more of a preferential feature, you can save some camera binds for the purpose of efficiency. The 2 rune spots, Roshan and the 4 shrines seem like pretty obvious choices, but there are players who bind common ward spots and bounty runes as well. However, avoid binding common hotkeys for this purpose. This is a very situational strategy that players may use, especially when playing from the side lane. You can buy and sell regen items like the Sage's Mask, Void Stone, Ring of Health and Ring of Regen within a duration of 10 seconds for the added regen in that period. Though not particularly useful in most scenarios, this can be an efficient play if you're just short of mana for a TP, or if you're looking to get those few extra last hits in the lane without actually calling out a salve or a set of tangos. One of the most fundamental aspects of the game, yet one where most seem to falter, is last hitting. One of the most basic ways to benchmark your last hitting capabilities is to pick Shadow Fiend and play a demo mode for 10 minutes. Don't buy items, don't put in any skill points. Tabulate your last hits and deny score at the end of 10 minutes and try and best yourself time and again. Not only will you improve at last hitting by this method, you'll also begin to understand the basics of creep equilibrium. This is a concept that most players are familiar with, but one that we seem to do more out of habit than out of logic. Knowing why and when to pull and when not to is what differentiates a good support player from the riffraff. Keeping yourself up to date with the patch's stack timings is step number 1. Understanding how pulling creeps affects the lane equilibrium is key, and keeping an eye out on your XP counter tells you whether or not the sneaky enemy offlaner is eating into your levels. Double pulling generally gets rid of an entire wave but pushes the enemy wave under your own tower. Conversely, a single pull builds up your creep momentum and pushes your creep wave under the enemy's tower, thus giving their offlaner easy gold and EXP. Use this trick when you intend to push the enemy tower and take it down early. The jungle is one of the most vital elements of the game. Knowing and being able to use the jungle efficiently and effectively separates the good players from the rest. Learn neutral creep mechanics and the active and passive skills that they have. While this is a must-know for heroes like Chen and Enchantress, it helps you decide which neutral creep to be attacking first in a camp and to make your farm more efficient. If you're a carry player, experiment with good farming patterns and build on the ability to switch between the jungle and the lane. If you're an offlaner, learn how to use the neutral creep aggro mechanics to disrupt pulls and make hard lane pulls yourself, thus giving you an EXP and potentially a gold advantage in the laning stage. Dota 2 is a game with too many variables and too many unknowns. It is impossible to remember everything and execute them as well. Learn to incorporate good basics into your playstyle such that you do them without thinking. This frees up space to remember more advanced features. As you grow as a player, more and more tricks such as last sitting will become things of habit rather than something that you have to remember exclusively. This will sharpen your game and leave you with more time and space to interpret the enemy and plan your next move.